Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Behind the Scenes. My name is Vani Kola, Managing Director of Kalari Capital. Today, it's my pleasure to welcome Sindhu Gangadharan, Senior VP and Managing Director of SAP Labs, India. Welcome, Sindhu. Really appreciate you doing this podcast with Kalari, and you've had such a varied career and leadership. I'm sure that there is plenty of learnings, not only for our audience, but for me as well. But really glad you took this time.
Thank you so much, Vani, for having me on this podcast, and it's a great honor to be talking to you today.
Sindhu, I know you've been a strong advocate of using technology as a means to, of course, do more for customers and do more for the society itself. So, how do you see that in the context of emerging India opportunity to build solutions, both from startup perspective, but also from large corporates perspective?
Customer centricity, and if you ask me, has always been at the core of every product experience and should be part of every product experience. And for us at SAP, it's also been one of our guiding principles when we take products to market, right? And if I just compare it to the story of the Indian ecosystem today, we are creating so many wow products, right, across categories. And also, I'm seeing absolutely categories and products being created, which is redefining that whole customer experience, be it in the space of fintech or be it in the space of edtech. These are phenomenal to see that. And when I look at the enterprise technology space, Vani, it's also looking very promising. We have a bunch of unicorns and rocket ships across the domains, be it of CRM, be it marketing, be it expense management, be it ad tech, all of this, right? Or even legal tech for that matter, you name it. Now, one key example which also comes to my mind of a great example of a startup who has pivoted, right, based on customer experience and the need of the hour is one of the startups that we recently have been working with in our own startup studio, which is our startup accelerator program at SAP. And it's a startup called Tagbox. And they were primarily starting off in the IoT space and mainly focused on the whole space of supply chain optimization. Now, during our conversation with them, and this was in the initial days of the pandemic, we jointly explored options with them to kind of expand the scope of their work to still leverage the same core technology that they were very passionate about, but to also incorporate a solution around social distancing and also employee tracking within a facility, right? And the solution, again, like I said, leverage the same core technology built on the business technology platform. But today it's now deployed across multiple enterprise customers, be it a discrete or be it process manufacturing sector. So for me, this is a phenomenal transformation, right? Where you're quickly able to also pivot based on the demands of your end customer. And I believe there are multiple factors which are contributing to this changing narrative in India. And because your question was also how I see this in the context of the Indian ecosystem. And if you see the digital adoption curve of the Indian enterprises is clearly on an upward trajectory. There's no doubt about it, right? And if you just also look at this recent Infosys Digital Radar report, they claim that the digital maturity among Indian enterprises has jumped to 55% as compared to 34% back in 2018. And if you also look at the internet subscribers in the country, and you know it very well, on the north side of 750 million internet subscribers, which is again giving us a huge opportunity to move a majority of these users up the value chain. Yeah. And then what is also unique in India, I mean, we have 63 million MSMEs, and kind of the impact that they can have and the contribution to the GDP is huge, right? So a lot of these factors contributing to that. Also now you can see a lot of the tier 2, tier 3 cities also coming and driving that kind of and being part of that technology adoption. Another example that comes to my mind, if I may, Vilvani, is we recently also leveraged AI and ML for the good of the society, right? Because something which I believe, depending on what is the need of the hour, right? And we were working with Tata Institute of Fundamental Research as well as the Indian Institute of Science, and what we did is to kind of use technology to see how we can have a city scale epidemic simulator, which is nothing but an agent based simulation model that allows you to come out from lockdowns in an emerged fashion, right? And again, these are great examples of how you use the same technology pivoted based on customer needs and experiences. And we'll see a lot of this, and the ecosystem is absolutely supportive of this kind of transformation.
But that brings a different question to my mind, Sindhu. The perpetual yin yang, of innovation versus growth. And what frameworks or philosophies do you use or recommend on how to think about balancing innovation and growth?
Yeah, I think we all know that growth hacking, right? I mean, this has been kind of the, how do you say, the entrepreneurial mantra, if you may will, and this has kind of been the focus. Of course, this has resulted in great technology players in new industries, and it's also fueled the creation of this coming together of online content, commerce, and how we kind of live and learn and work across all this is also driving a lot of that kind of change. But if you ask me from my own experience, it's always been rewarding when you focus and give back to your people, because I truly believe that when you invest in your people, they'll take care of your business naturally. And so I'm still slightly in favor of constantly innovating yourself as an organization by also investing in your talent pool, because at the end of the day, you can only get as good as your people. And from a lot of my interactions with the startup founders, I've also learned that a lot of them, of course, reinvest their profits in back into their people and their businesses, because of course it helps them grow. So that's always been kind of the focus, which means that they don't just stagnate, which is super important for their growth. And I always remember what Satya Nadella said, right, when he took over as the CEO of Microsoft. He says, I mean, our industry respects innovation above anything else. So I guess that's something our founders can also take a cue from. But as we know, when it comes to business, it's not always a one size fits all, right? That's never the case. And so I think it's better when we have this right balance of focusing on innovation, focusing on your people, because that's the kind of combination that's always going to be successful.
So, Sindhu, then let's talk about people. In sort of your years of being a leader and leading many teams, what are two or three takeaways about people, whether it's managing, hiring, retaining, what is things that have worked for you?
Yeah, I think when you talk about people, first and foremost, you need to go a little more deeper into what is it that drives an individual, right? And if you are able to address that at the core of what is it that drives an individual and create an environment which is also helping that individual flourish, that is what is key, right? And what I mean is, as large organizations, for us, and particularly at SAP, it has always been important that we create an environment where every individual can bring their best self to the workplace. And this means behind the scenes, it's also working towards creating an inclusive environment where anybody, irrespective of their background, their belief system, or what has shaped them as an individual, once they come into this culture, they have the best platform in which they can kind of excel, they can kind of flourish, they can kind of grow, they can give back to the organization. And I think that is front and foremost, to identify what drives an individual and build a culture within an organization where that individual can thrive. And this is the only way I think you can really get the best for the individual as well as for the organization. And this is, I think, a mantra that I've always followed, and I'm so happy to be part of an organization where this is also the basis of how we function.
Easier said than done. There is no one out there that disagrees with the notion of equal opportunity, right? However, in actually delivering inclusive workplaces, be that in a small company or a large company, how do we actually make it happen? And not to bring gender into it,
Yeah.
but there is a lot around women at the top, but a lot of organizations don't have a prescriptive way to how to make that happen. So there is an unconscious bias also to inclusivity. So how do you suggest workplaces truly create that inclusive workplace in every aspect?
Yeah, I mean, this is a important question, and it's also a subject that's very close to my heart. And if you ask me, fundamentally, I think we are all in agreement that diversity makes us smarter, makes not just us, but our organization smarter, society is smarter. When you take in diverse views and kind of are able to incorporate kind of bringing in those perspectives, we are always taking the best decisions. So I think, again, going back to my point, right, as long as we are able to foster and strive towards building that kind of an inclusive work environment where every individual is empowered, irrespective of their gender or background, but to be the best version of themselves, right, and to be able to contribute to this great tech revolution that's also happening. And I think that's important. So for me, I think at this point in time, this whole topic of diversity and inclusion are no longer this what you write on paper. It's a topic that is of the highest importance in pretty much every boardroom across industries, not just in the tech industry, because a lot of organizations have realized that, hey, come on, I mean, I don't want to be left behind because of the fact that I'm just so focused on maybe one culture or whatever it is, right? And I want to be able to access also a deeper talent pool who has diverse experience, and it's also scientifically proven, like we've said. And so, to your question on equal opportunity, Vani, I think an equal opportunity means that there is no bias, right, in whatsoever way we treat an individual, the opportunities we give them, the respect we give them at work. Because as long as the person is doing a great job, why should there be any reason to not give them an equal opportunity to be to success, or whatever it is that they want, right? But at the same time, you're right. If you just look at it even purely from the in the tech industry itself, the number of men do outnumber women, even in tech, but also, of course, in other industries too. And you'd wonder why, right? Because in India, what we have the highest number of STEM graduates, and even 43%, if the numbers are right, and it's even higher than any country, including US and UK as well, right? But the number of women who then take on STEM jobs in India is less than one third of this number. And there are several factors that contribute to this gender gap. I think fundamentally there is also still limited access to quality education, particularly also for girls, also the lack of equal opportunities in the workplace. So there's still a lot of homework to be done, no doubt about it, to also increase and create the awareness at a much earlier on stage. Counseling at schools, colleges can absolutely positively shape those career choices for young women. And if I can also add, I think a lot and the change also happens right at home. And can I just reflect on my own self? I didn't know this was like a big thing back then growing up, but I can say that very confidently today that I was very fortunate to be raised by very strong parents who had the same expectations towards me as they had to both my brothers. And back then that was taken for granted, but now all these years, and after talking to so many people in the industry, with individuals, people I mentor, I realized that was such a privilege to have that, right? And so I'd encourage that we have this, and a lot of this value systems need to happen right at the beginning so that we can really clip the gap right at the beginning itself. And of course, to your point about bringing that back into an organizational context, of course, it is. We can't just have the owners on the individual. We have to create those, like I said, environment for also women to pursue their dreams and chase their career goals, just like any of the other counterparts. And it just not only about gender, right? Again, I'd like to come back to SAP. We pride ourselves in calling ourselves an equal opportunity organization. And of course, I can reflect back on my own career journey, but also it goes way beyond gender, right? We are a very strong supporter of the LGBTQ community, and a significant part of our workforce globally is also part of this spectrum. And so when we talk about equal opportunities, it absolutely goes way beyond gender, it goes down to equal work, equal pay policies as well.
I know you have a program also to bring on board people from different abilities and
Yes.
handicaps.
Yeah, we were the pioneers back in 2013. We started the Autism at Work program right here in India, by the way. And now today it's a global program across, and many of the other leading tech companies are learning from us how to set this up in their own organizations as well. No?
Yes. So, switching back to technology for a minute, what are some technologies that are you're very excited about potential to create great impact over the next decade? If we look ahead,
Yeah.
right, what is something that you're betting big on, or would advise startups to bet big on?
Yeah, I think currently it's beautiful for somebody in tech, right? Because there's so many technologies that's super interesting, and all of us are also closely observing. If you'd ask me to pick two, Vani, I think two which absolutely is phenomenally could have a brilliant impact and is also having an impact. I'd say first and foremost would be the whole area of intelligent process automation. Of course, maybe I come with my process view on things being with SAP as well, but it's this whole convergence of AI, big data, machine learning, really allowing for bots to be highly contextual, right? It's not just about automation anymore, but being contextual, and also offering those very fast learning models for quicker automation outputs. I think that's at the crux of so many things that we want to drive, and we are driving as well. And the adoption of automation, and we know that it's happening all around us, is significantly expected to grow. So I truly believe an investment in intelligent process automation it will clearly reach the predicted numbers, right? So the markets are predicting what $232 billion by 2025. So that's huge. The second thing, again, if you just look at the changing realities around us, is the whole space of tactile virtual reality. Because in this world, and also now, given the way we are all adapted to also working remotely, but also where you just see that the whole gravity is shifting towards virtual buying experience, right? The whole topic of virtual reality is phenomenal. And again, if you kind of expand into the context of tactile virtual reality, because touch also gives you a better understanding of the things that you cannot fully experience, right, by just sight or by hearing. And this is where tactile virtual reality can come into play, and it's really combining the use of several types of technology. So I'll see a lot of these uh, bringing together of technologies, be it sensors, advanced optics, etc., all bundled together into the single device that can give you that capability to overlay this kind of an augmented digital content into your real-time space. So this is, I think, absolutely fascinating areas, and something that I'm pretty sure we are going to see a lot of, and definitely smart founders of there out there should definitely be looking into more closely.
How do we keep up with all this is the bigger question, I think, for all of us, with so much happening. And Sindhu, you are such a successful leader and you're a role model to many, many people. So I want to ask you this: what's advice that you received that you have cherished, and what advice would you pass on?
Yeah, I think the first and foremost, to your own self, right? Continue to drive on those areas that you're truly passionate about, because I think that's doesn't matter what colors change around you or how the climate is changing. As long as you're focused on working with what drives you as an individual. I told you at the beginning as well. This is also what large organizations like ours really tapping into what drives that individual, and for yourself as well. As long as you find that space and environment and the ecosystem that helps you to do that, just make sure that you stick to that and also use that to your advantage. And when you ask me about advice to founders, right, I think again it goes back to my people point. I'd say really first and foremost, hire well, because when you hire good people around you, you know that you can grow, because you have a lot of ideas, you have a lot of drive, but you need to have the right team who can then take it forward, because otherwise you'll never scale if you become kind of the bottleneck. What's the point in having brilliant ideas, but you don't know how to execute upon them? And that's why, first and foremost, I'd say hire, even if it's a small team, just hire the right team. You'll see that that's going to help you phenomenally. The second thing, again, as a if be it, when you're starting small or in large organizations like us, when we talk about investment capacity, right, we're looking at the nature of the customer. So really acquiring also those bigger customers and chase the big numbers right from day one, because once you've made those bigger deals, then you know how to crack the other ones, right? So because the big ones will come with a lot of pain and energy that you need to spend. But once you do that, once you understand, hey, how business models are going to work, what works with the customer, even if you pick a targeted space, that's how you kind of then incrementally increase. Then you pick up the pace, right? So that's the third thing. How do you pick up the pace? And also giving yourself those specific timelines for certain achievements and actions really helps all of us stay focused, right? And also driven. Of course, yes, you're here for the longer marathon, but those shorter sprints in order to get there is really important. And staying focused on those shorter sprints and delivering upon it, right? Very important. And fourth and most, I think, critical, why are we here? Because we want to provide value to our customers. So never underestimate the power of offering a solution. Like I mentioned at the beginning, when you're able to quickly pivot, use the same technology, but finally it's about value at that time for your customer, right? And as long as you're offering value, then I think all other problems kind of fall into place, because you're really adding a differentiating capability which will bring joy to your customers, and that's what gives you a fun ride too. And last, and again, I'll come back to also the people aspect. It's important that we create an amazing work culture, because it's, like I said, I want to end also with the people aspect. When you bring people together and create that beautiful culture, and people kind of own also their topics, that's when the magic happens. And so give your team wings to fly, and you'll be absolutely surprised with the outcomes that you will see.
This was really a very valuable, fascinating, insightful conversation. Really appreciate you sharing so generously from your learnings and experiences.